So last time in Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry, Ron, and Hermione talk about what Mr. Weasley just told Harry, that Sirius Black is going to probably come for him. And then the Dementors come onto the train and nearly make Harry pass out. They are saved by the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, Professor Lupin. And then they arrive at Hogwarts, where Dumbledore gives a warning that the Dementors are going to be staying at Hogwarts for the year. And then, the next day, as they're preparing for their first classes, Ron kind of notices something weird about Hermione's schedule, but they don't talk much about it because they have to run to their divination class where they meet Professor Trelawney, who makes a prediction that Harry is going to die because he has a Grim in his teacup. But they are sort of reassured later on by Professor McGonagall, who claims that Trelawney is a great big fraud. And then in Hagrid's class later that day, as he has become a new professor of the care of magical creatures, they meet a Buckbeak the Hippogriff. But things don't go well there when Draco causes a mishap that gets him sent to the hospital wing, and he swears revenge on Hagrid. And they're at least lucky that Hagrid isn't sacked yet, but it's only a matter of time, they're sure. And Draco's laying it on pretty thick. And then there is a sighting of Sirius Black in a nearby village, which causes everybody to kind of freak out, but everybody in class, everybody's like, oh, why can't he get into Hogwarts if he's the best Dementors already? And then in their potions class, Snape kind of favors Draco and makes the boys cut up all of Draco's ingredients. And Draco kind of taunts Harry about being a good kid and staying in school instead of going after Black, because apparently Draco knows something about Black that Harry doesn't know. And then Neville, in class, makes a very dangerous mistake that almost gets his Toad killed, but Hermione helps him, but that gets them a points docked. And then in Professor Lupin's class, he is nearly late, which, classic Lupin. And then they have their first Defense Against the Dark Arts class with Lupin, where they face a boggart, which shows her deepest fear. And a lot of the students do face it, but Harry is not one of them, as Lupin steps in front of the boggart before he is able to do so. And so, as we move into this next episode, what will Harry need to do with this information that Lupin knows something about his fear that he might not know?
Our story begins one late evening in the Gryffindor common room. We see Harry and the rest of the Gryffindor Quidditch team after a hard practice session. The players notice several students gathered by the notice board reading a new announcement and approach to see what it's about.
What's happening?
First Hogsmeade weekend. It's on Halloween.
Excellent! I need to visit Zonkos. I'm nearly out of stink pellets.
Harry dejectedly throws himself into an armchair. Ron and Hermione leave the notice board to join him.
Harry, I'm sure you'll be able to go next time. They're bound to catch Black soon. He's been sighted once already.
Black's not foolish enough to try anything at Hogsmeade. Ask McGonagall if you can go this time, Harry. The next one may not be for ages.
Ron! Harry's supposed to stay in school.
He can't be the only third year left behind. Ask McGonagall. Go on, Harry.
Harry only needs the barest of excuses to agree.
Yeah, I think I will.
As Crookshanks jumps up onto Hermione's lap with a dead spider in his mouth, Ron shudders slightly. Hermione strokes the cat on the head.
Does he have to eat that in front of us?
Clever Crookshanks. Did you catch that all by yourself?
Just keep him over there. I've got Scabbers asleep in my bag.
For a brief few moments, everything is calm in the Gryffindor common room. Then, without warning, Crookshanks pounces onto Ron's satchel, clawing and gnawing on it as hard as he can.
Oi! Get off, you stupid animal!
Ron tries to pry the cat off the bag, and as he does, Scabbers the rat scurries off and runs off into a corner nearby Fred and George. Crookshanks pursues.
Catch the cat!
Ron makes a grab for him but misses, and Scabbers runs under an old dresser. with Crookshanks hot in pursuit. A fluffy paw swipes underneath to reach the rat. Hermione quickly grabs her pet cat, and Ron stoops down and pulls the rat out from under the dresser. As Hermione comforts Crookshanks, Ron presents the shaking and terrified Scabbers to her.
Look at him! He's skin and bone. You keep that cat away from him.
Crookshanks doesn't understand it's wrong. All cats chase rats, Ron.
Ron forces Scabbers into the pocket of his robes.
There's something funny about that rat. It heard me say Scabbers was in my bag.
Oh, what rubbish. Crookshanks could smell him, Ron. How else?
That cat has gotten in for Scabbers. And Scabbers was here first. And he's ill.
Ron grabs his things and marches up the stairs, leaving the common room quiet in his wake. The next morning, Harry, Ron, and Hermione are making their way to Transfiguration.
How's Scabbers, Ron?
He's at the bottom of my bed, shaking.
Their argument is interrupted as they notice some commotion in front of the Transfiguration classroom, where the rest of the Gryffindors are waiting. They all surround Lavender, who is sobbing uncontrollably and being comforted by Parvati, who is talking to Seamus and Dean.
What's the matter, Lavender?
She got a letter from home just now. It's a pet rabbit, Binky. He's been killed by a fox.
Oh. I'm sorry, Lavender.
I should have known. You know what day it is. The 16th of October. That thing you are dreading. It'll happen on the 16th of October. Remember? Professor Trelawney was right.
Everyone else nods sagely at this, but Hermione is not convinced.
You were dreading Blinky being killed by a fox?
Well, not necessarily by a fox, but I was obviously dreading him dying, wasn't I?
Oh, well. Was Blinky a very old rabbit?
No, he was only a baby.
Well, look at it logically. I mean, Blinky didn't even die today, did he? Lavender just got the news today, and she couldn't have been dreading it, as it's come as a real shock.
This comment garners Hermione a couple of glares from the surrounding students, namely Parvati.
Don't mind Hermione, Lavender. She doesn't think other people's pets matter very much.
Just then, Professor McGonagall opens the classroom door, interrupting Ron and Hermione's argument. Everyone streams in and finds a seat. Near the end of the class, as students are preparing to leave, McGonagall draws everyone's attention.
One moment, please. As you're all in my house, you should hand your permission forms for Hogmeads to me. For only. Informed and visiting the village, so don't forget.
Neville tentatively raises his hand.
Please, Professor, I think I've lost.
Your grandmother sent yours to me directly, Longbottom. You seem to think it would be safer. Well, that's all. You may leave.
Ron nudges Harry toward her.
Ask her, now.
Harry momentarily thinks about not doing it, then decides to go for it. Waiting for everyone else to leave the classroom, he approaches Professor McGonagall's desk.
Yes, Potter.
Harry debates with himself whether or not to ask as McGonagall eyes him critically. He then gathers his courage and says,
Professor, my aunt and uncle, forgot to sign my forms, so, do you think it would be alright? Can I go to Hogsmeade?
I'm afraid not, Potter. You heard what I said. No form, no visiting the village. That's the rule.
But Professor, my aunt and uncle, they're muggles. They don't understand Hogsmeade's forms and stuff. If you said I could go...
But I didn't say so.
She abruptly stands and starts to grab her papers to put them into the drawers of her desk.
The form clearly states that the parent or guardian must give permission. I'm sorry, Potter, but that's my final word.
This is clearly a dismissal, and Harry dejectedly takes it as such. He heads off and meets Ron at the door where he has been waiting, and they start walking.
So, did she say yes? Can you go?
No. She said it has to be a parent or guardian.
Ron returns Harry's scowl as he hears this.
I can't believe it. What doesn't she understand about the Muggles?
I tried, but it didn't work.
Well, there's always a feast, you know, in the evening.
Yeah, great.
The next morning, Harry, Ron, and Hermione sit at breakfast. Harry picks at some food as Ron and Hermione try and cheer him up.
We'll bring you lots of sweets back from Honeydews.
Yeah, loads.
Don't worry about me. Have fun, guys.
But it's clear he doesn't feel very cheerful. A while later, Harry wanders down a corridor unable to settle to anything. He's so lost in his thoughts, he doesn't notice when he nearly runs into Filch.
What are you doing?
Nothing?
Nothing. Unlikely story. Why aren't you in Hogsmeade buying stink pelts and belch powder and whizzing worms like the rest of your nasty friends?
Harry shrugs non-committally as Filch waits for an answer.
Well, get back to your common room where you belong.
Harry wanders off again, not heading up to the common room, but toward the owlry, hoping to see Hedwig.
Harry, what are you doing? Where are Ron and Hermione?
Harry looks up, startled by the new voice. He turns around to see Professor Lupin poking his head out from behind his office door.
They went to Hogsmeade.
Ah, well, why don't you come in? I've just taken delivery of a Grindylow for next lesson.
A what?
Harry follows Lupin into his office where he sees a large tank of murky water, in which a sickly green creature with long spindly legs and little horns on its head makes faces at them. Lupin gestures to the creature.
A water demon. We shouldn't have too much difficulty with him, not after the cuppas. The trick is to break his grip. See the abnormally long fingers? Strong but very brittle.
Harry examines the creature, which snarls at him, and Lupin busies himself at a small cookstove in a corner.
Cup of tea? I was just thinking of making one.
Sure.
Lupin taps his tea kettle with a wand, and it immediately begins to steam and whistle. He pours the hot water into 2 chipped mugs, and then pulls out a tin, from which he extracts a couple of tea bags.
Sit down. I've only got tea bags, but I dare say you've had enough of tea leaves, right?
How did you know about that?
Professor McGonagall told me. You're not still worried, are you?
No.
But Lupin seems to read Harry's true thoughts as he sits across from him, setting the tea down on the desk.
Anything worrying you, Harry?
No. Yes. You know the day we fought the Buggers?
Yes?
Why didn't you let me fight it?
I would have thought that would be obvious, Harry.
Why?
I assumed that if the boggart faced you, it would assume the shape of Lord Voldemort.
Harry is taken aback, both by Lupin's assumption and his use of Voldemort's name.
Clearly I was wrong. I simply didn't think it a good idea for Lord Voldemort to appear in the staff room. I imagined that people would panic.
I thought of that, at first, but then I remember the train, the Dementors.
I see. Well, I'm impressed. That suggests that what you fear most of all is fear. That is very wise, Harry. So you've been thinking that I didn't think you capable of dealing with the boggart?
This news is a weight off Harry's shoulders, and he sits a little straighter.
Well, yeah. Professor Lupin, you know the Dementors.
Whatever Harry was going to say is interrupted by a knock on the office door.
Come in.
The door opens slowly, and in comes Snape. He carries a goblet that smokes slightly. He pauses briefly when he sees Harry, but continues to Lupin's desk.
Ah, Severus. Thanks very much. Could you leave it here on the desk for me?
Snape obliges, setting the goblet on the desk beside Lupin's cup of tea. He eyes Harry curiously.
I was just showing Harry the Grindylow.
Fascinating. You should drink that directly, Lupin.
Yes, I will.
I made an entire cauldron full, should you need more.
I should probably take some more tomorrow. Thanks very much, Severus.
Not at all.
With a dark look between Harry and Lupin, Snape leaves the office. Harry eyes the goblet curiously, which Lupin notices.
Professor Snape has very kindly concocted a potion for me. I've never been much of a potion maker myself, and this one is particularly complex.
Lupin picks up the goblet and sniffs it, wrinkling his nose before taking a sip.
Pity sugar makes it useless.
Why?
I've been feeling a bit off color lately. This potion is the only thing that helps. I am very lucky to be working alongside Professor Snape. There aren't many who are up to making it.
As Lupin continues to drink the potion, Harry considers knocking it out of his hands, fearing poison. He resorts to a warning.
Professor Snape is very interested in the dark arts.
Really?
Some people reckon he'd do just about anything to get the Defense Against the Dark Arts job.
Disgusting. Well, Harry, I better get back to work. I'll see you at the feast later.
Right.
As Harry leaves, he eyes the empty goblet, still smoking, slightly. Later that evening at the Halloween feast, Hermione and Ron, having already filled Harry in on their trip, spread their finds before him. There is candy, trinkets, and various other items, which completely cluttered the tables, filled with all sorts of delicious food.
There you are. We got as much as we could carry.
Harry picks up a small black packet labeled Pepper Imps.
Thanks. This is amazing, guys.
Wish we could have bought you some butterbeer. It really warms you up. So, what did you do all day? Harry, did you get your work done?
No, Lupin made me a cup of tea in his office. Snape came in, had this goblet. He said it was some kind of potion. Lupin seemed to have been expecting him. You know what Snape's like. What if he tries to off him?
Lupin actually drank it. Is he mad?
If he was actually going to poison Lupin, I don't think he'd do it in front of Harry, would he?
I guess not, but he was really suspicious.
The three of them finally start to make themselves plates, and after a while, almost all the trays of food are empty. As Dumbledore stands at the head table, the rows of empty plates and goblets disappear.
And now that we've been fed properly, I believe it is time for us all to hit the sack, as they say. I wish you all a happy Halloween, and good night.
Students head back to their common rooms after the delicious feast. Harry, Ron, and Hermione are in the middle of a group of Gryffindors as they head up the stairs. However, once they reach the fat lady's portrait, they seem to find themselves in a traffic jam.
Why isn't anyone going in?
Harry and Hermione shrug. As the crowd at the entrance of Gryffindor Tower grows, we hear Percy Weasley shoving his way through the crowd importantly.
Let me through, please. What's the hold up? You can't all have forgotten the password. Excuse me, I'm head boy.
Percy reaches the front of the crowd, and suddenly everyone goes silent. Nearby, Ginny catches Ron's eye, terrified.
Professor Dumbledore! Quick! Quick!
Someone runs off to fetch Dumbledore. Students whisper as the mystery of what's going on mounts. A few minutes later, Dumbledore arrives, the crowd parting like the Red Sea to allow him through. As they do, the trio catches sight of the fat lady's portrait. The subject herself is missing, and the canvas has been slashed horrendously, parts of it completely torn away. As Lupin and McGonagall join Dumbledore by the remains of the portrait, the chatter rises again.
We need to find her. Professor McGonagall, please go to Mr. Filch immediately and have him search every painting in the castle for the fat lady.
Just then, Peeves the poltergeist floats over, bobbing over the heads of students and laughing as they swat at him.
You'll be lucky.
What do you mean, Peeves?
Peeves adopts a mock serious voice as he explains. It's clear he's relishing being the center of attention.
Ashamed your headship son doesn't want to be seen, so he's running through the landscape up on the 4th floor, dodging between trees, crying something dreadful. Poor thing.
Did she say who did it?
Oh yes, Professor Hale. He got very angry when she wouldn't let him in. You see, nasty temper he's got. That serious black.
Everyone gasps in terror at this. Peeves, having sensed his work of causing chaos is over for now, flies off, cackling. Dumbledore turns to Percy, Lupin, and McGonagall.
Minerva, fetch Filch and go to the fat lady. I want to know her perspective of these events. Remus, please find the other heads of houses and have them bring all their students to the Great Hall. Until we have secured the castle, it will be safer to have them all in one place where we can protect them. Percy, you and I will escort the Gryffindors there, and then we will begin to search the castle, though I don't expect Black will linger.
Everyone jumps to obey his orders. The Gryffindor trudge after Dumbledore and Percy as they are led to the Great Hall. Everyone mutters, unsure of what exactly has happened and what is going to happen next. Once in the Great Hall, the Gryffindors are joined by other houses and their teachers. Dumbledore gets the chattering students' attention with a couple of bangs from his wand.
The teachers and I must conduct a search of the castle. I'm afraid for your own safety, you must spend the night here. The prefects will stand guard over the entrances to this hall, and the head boy and girl will be in charge while our search is ongoing. Any disturbance should be reported to me immediately.
Percy nods importantly. As teachers start to leave the room, Dumbledore turns around and waves his wand with a flourish. The tables fly to the sides of the hall. With another wave, hundreds of squashy purple sleeping bags appear. Students scramble to claim them by their friends. Harry, Ron, and Hermione grab sleeping bags and head over to a corner where they can talk in private.
Hey, Harry, do you think he's still here?
Dumbledore thinks he might be, or he wouldn't be searching.
He'd be stupid to just stay after he's been caught like this. Everybody's looking for him.
This seems to satisfy them, at least for now. Everyone slowly settles to sleep as the night goes on, except for Harry, Ron, and Hermione, who are unable to manage it. They are still awake a few hours later when Dumbledore re-enters the hall to catch Percy up on their search, and quickly pretend to be asleep so they can eavesdrop.
You find him, sir?
No. All's well here?
All under control, sir?
No point in moving them for now. I found a temporary new guardian for Gryffindor Tower, so you can move them all back to the tower tomorrow morning.
The doors to the Great Hall open again, and footsteps approach. The trio can't tell who it is until Snape speaks.
Headmaster, the whole of the 3rd floor has been searched. He's not there, and Filch has done the dungeons. Nothing there either.
What about the astronomy tower? Professor Trelawney's rooms? The owlery?
All searched.
Very well, Snape. Of course, it would have been foolish for him to remain.
Have you any theory as to how he got in, Professor?
Many, Severus, each as unlikely as the last.
I did warn you when you were employed.
I do not believe a single person inside this castle would help Black to enter it.
From Dumbledore's tone, it is clear that he will hear no arguments.
I must go to the Dementors. I said I would inform them when our search was complete.
Retreating footsteps indicate Dumbledore's exit. Harry, Ron, and Hermione's eyes widen in fear as they think about what they've heard. A few days later, the trio leave lunch, and they are intercepted by Professor McGonagall.
Potter, I would like to have a word, please.
All right.
It is in the opinion of Professor Dumbledore and myself, given the recent events, that it would not be a good idea for you to practice Quidditch in the evening, along with only your teammates. It's very exposed, Potter.
It's clear she doesn't like it, but she's doing what she can to protect Harry. Of course, Harry reacts badly.
But we've got a first match next Saturday. I've got to train, Professor.
Professor McGonagall considers this briefly, coming up with a possible alternative.
For goodness knows, I'd like to see us win the cup at last. But all the same, Potter, I'd be happier if the teachers were present. I'll ask Madam Hooch to oversee Gryffindor training.
At the start of training, a couple days before the match, Oliver Wood gathers his team before they mount their brooms. It's clear he has bad news, and he is livid.
We're not playing Slytherin. Flint just told me we're playing Hufflepuff instead.
Why?
Flint's excuse is that their Seeker's arm is still injured, but it's obvious why they're doing it. They don't want to play in this weather, think it'll ruin their chances.
As if to prove his points, a crack of thunder shakes the sky. Harry stamps his foot furiously.
There's nothing wrong with Malfoy's arm. He's faking it.
I know that, but we can't prove it. And we've been practicing assuming we're playing Slytherin, and Hufflepuff has a completely different style. The new Captain Diggory is pretty good.
I don't know why you're so worried, Oliver. Last time we played Hufflepuff, Harry caught the snitch in about 5 minutes, remember?
This is not the response Oliver was looking for, and he glares at the twins.
I thought you'd be like this. Those were completely different conditions. Diggory has a very strong team. We mustn't relax. Slytherin's trying to wrong-foot us. We must win.
Calm down, Oliver. We are taking Hufflepuff seriously. Seriously.
The next day, Harry runs into the classroom a few minutes late, not even paying attention to much.
I'm sorry I'm late, Professor Lupin.
Harry is brought up short in his apology, as he notices that it is Snape teaching the class, and not Lupin.
This lesson began 10 minutes ago, Potter. So I think we'll make it 10 points from Gryffindor. Sit down.
Where's Professor Lupin?
He says he is too ill to teach today. I believe I told you to sit down.
What's wrong with him?
Nothing life-threatening. If I have to ask you to sit down again, it will be 50 points.
Harry reluctantly takes his seat between Ron and Hermione. Snape returns to his lesson.
As I was saying before Potter interrupted, Professor Lupin has not left any record of the topics you have covered so far.
Please, sir. We've done kappas, red caps, pocket, and grindy lows. We were about to start.
Be quiet. I did not ask for information. I was merely commenting on Professor Lupin's lack of organization.
Professor Lupin's the best defense against the dark arts teacher we've had.
You are easily satisfied. I would expect first years to be able to deal with the red caps.
Snape turns in their book to a chapter near the back, which they would clearly not have covered.
Today we shall discuss werewolves.
But sir, we've not started nocturnal creatures. We were about to start hinky-punks.
Snape decides to ignore her.
I am teaching this class, Miss Granger, not you. Now, turn to page 394. Now!
Students grumble, but get out their books and turn to the page 394.
Now, which of you can tell me how we distinguish between the werewolf and the true wolf?
As expected, Hermione is the only one to raise her hand. Snape eyes her for a moment before completely ignoring her.
Anyone? Are you telling me that Professor Lupin hasn't even taught you the basic distinction between...
We told you we haven't got as far as werewolves yet. We're still on.
Silence. Well. I never thought I'd meet a third-year class that couldn't even recognize a werewolf when they saw one. I'll make a point of informing Professor Dumbledore how very behind you are.
Please, sir. The werewolf differs from the true wolf in several small ways. The snout of a werewolf.
That is the second time you have spoken out of turn, Miss Granger. 5 points from Gryffindor for being an insufferable know-it-all.
Hermione grows very red and puts down her still raised hand. Ron stands abruptly, infuriated.
You've asked us a question and she knows the answer. Why ask if you don't want to be told?
Detention, Weasley. And if I ever hear you criticize the way I teach again, you'll be very sorry indeed.
Ron glowers, but says nothing more. Snape continues the lesson, making some notes appear on the blackboard for them to copy, then heading over to the desk to do some grading. Eventually, the bell for class to end sounds, and as the students grab their things, he stands.
You will each write an essay to be handed in to me on the ways to recognize and kill a werewolf. I want 2 rolls of parchment on the subject. Turned in to me on Monday morning. Weasley, stay behind. We need to arrange your detention.
Students flow out of the classroom talking animatedly and angrily about Snape's unfairness. At breakfast the next day, Gryffindor team picks at their food before the match, and Oliver isn't eating at all. Rain pounds the windows, portending a dangerous match.
It's going to be a tough one.
Don't worry, Oliver. We don't mind a bit of rain.
A bit of rain indeed. The thunder pounds, the lightning strikes, and rain continues to deluge the grounds as students make their way to the pitch to watch the game. On the pitch, the Gryffindor and Hufflepuff team surround Madam Hooch. Oliver and Cedric Diggory, the new Hufflepuff team captain, shake hands. Madam Hooch sends the quaffle up, and the players shoot off into the air. It's no use trying to play. The noise and rain are awful, and no one can do anything because they can't hear or see. Harry tries to search for the snitch, but no luck. He can't see either, and it's worse with his glasses. He barely hears Madam Hooch's whistle for the timeout called by Oliver. Harry quickly lands and joins the rest of the team at the sidelines, wiping his glasses as well as he can on the soaked robes.
What's the score?
We're 50 points up, but unless we catch a snitch soon, we'll be playing into the night.
I've got no chance with these glasses.
Unexpectedly, Hermione runs up to them, waving her wand in excitement.
Harry, give me your glasses.
Harry obliges, handing them to her. She points to the wand at them.
Impervious. Now they'll repel water.
Hermione runs off again, and wood beams.
Brilliant! Alright, let's go for it.
They return to the pitch, and a few moments later, play resumes. Hermione's spell definitely helps, and Harry can see much better with waterproof glasses. He scans the skies for any sight of the snitch. Suddenly, something catches his eye in the stands. Was it the snitch? No. As Harry focuses, he finds a large black dog sitting near the edge of the stands. He drops several feet in surprise, and by the time he regains his balance, the dog has disappeared.
Harry, look out!
Harry ducks just in time to avoid a bludger pelting towards him. Brushing it off, he urges his broom forward, searching in earnest for the snitch. But then, a strange sensation creeps over the stands. The wind picks up even more, but the sounds surrounding Harry seem to deafen. Looking below, Harry catches sight of hundreds of Dementors gliding over the pitch. As the feeling of extreme cold consumes Harry, he hears screaming again, and then it morphs into words. Someone speaking desperately.
Not Harry. Not Harry. Please.
Stand aside, silly girl. Stand aside.
No, not Harry. Please, take me. Kill me instead.
As Harry loses consciousness, the last echoes of the woman's voice fade away. Later that afternoon in the hospital wing, Harry slowly comes to, and as his vision focuses, he grabs his glasses to find Hermione, Ron, and the rest of the Quidditch team, minus Oliver, surrounding him. They are all covered in mud, not having even showered after the match.
Harry!
What happened?
You fell off. Must have been, 50 feet?
We thought you were dead.
But the match. What happened? Are they going to have a replay?
At this, everyone exchanges looks. No one wants to be the bearer of bad news.
We didn't lose?
Diggory got the snitch, right before he fell off. He didn't realize what had happened. When he saw you on the ground, he tried to call it off. He wanted a rematch. But they won, fair and square. Even Wood admits it.
Where's Wood?
In the shower. We think he's trying to drown himself.
Harry frowns, disappointed in himself. Rather than voice it, however, he tries to bring up something less serious.
Did anyone get my Nimbus?
Again, they all exchange nervous looks.
Well, when you fell off, it got blown away. Oh, Harry, it hit the Whomping Willow.
And?
But Ron's answer only confirms what he already knows.
Well, you know the willow. It doesn't like being hit.
Hermione reaches into a bag by her feet, tipping the contents onto the bed. The remains of Harry's first broomstick, the Nimbus 2000. In the next defense against the Dark Arts class, the students crowd Lupin, complaining about Snape teaching the last lesson. He eventually raises his hand to silence them.
Did you tell Professor Snape that you hadn't covered werewolves yet?
We did. Rather, Hermione did. But he didn't listen. He gave us 2 rolls of parchment.
Don't worry. I will speak to Professor Snape. You won't have to do the essay.
Oh no. I've already finished.
Ron snickers a bit at this. Finally, with the injustice of Snape's assignment behind them, Lupin sets the students to their next lesson. Class goes by quickly, and before they know it, they're packing up their things to leave. Harry is about to join them when...
Harry, wait a moment. I'd like a word.
Harry hangs back and waits for everyone to leave. When the room is empty, he joins Lupin at his desk.
I heard about the match, and I'm sorry about your broomstick. Is there no hope of repairing it?
No. The willow smashed it to bits.
The Whomping Willow was planted the same year I started at Hogwarts. People used to dare each other to get close to it, and eventually Dumbledore had to forbid students to go near it. I'm sorry to say, no broomstick would stand a chance.
Did you hear about the Dementors, too?
Yes, I did. I don't think any of us have seen Professor Dumbledore so angry. They've been restless for some time, resentful of Dumbledore's refusal to allow them on the grounds. I suppose the other reason you fell?
Harry slowly nods. He debates whether or not to ask the next question, but the words escape his lips.
Why? Why do they affect me so? Am I...
It has nothing to do with weakness. The Dementors affect you more than the others because there are horrors in your past that the others can't even imagine. Dementors are among the foulest creatures that walk this earth. They infest the darkest, filthiest places. They glory in decay and despair. They drain peace, hope, and happiness out of the air around them. Even Muggles feel their presence, though they can't see them. Get too near a Dementor, and every good feeling, every happy memory will be sucked out of you. If it can, the Dementor will feed on you long enough to reduce you to something like itself, soulless and evil. You'll be left with nothing but the worst experiences of your life. And the worst that happened to you, Harry, is enough to make anyone fall off their broom. You have nothing to feel ashamed of.
This assessment seems to relieve Harry, but only a little bit. Other emotions start to rise in the wake of this.
When they get near me, I hear Voldemort murdering my mom. Why do they have to come to the match?
They're getting hungry. Dumbledore won't let them into the school. The match was exciting, emotions running high. It was their idea of a feast.
Azkaban must be terrible.
Lupin stands and starts picking things up and shoving them into his briefcase.
Indeed it is. The fortress is on an island way out to sea, but they don't need walls and water to keep the prisoners in, not when they're all trapped inside their own heads, incapable of a single cheerful thought. Most go mad within weeks.
Sirius Black escaped from them. He got away.
At the mention of Black, Lupin nearly drops the briefcase, but catches it.
Yes. Black must have found a way to fight them. I wouldn't have thought it possible. The effects of Dementors are supposed to drain a wizard of his powers if he's left with them for too long.
You made that Dementor on the train back off.
There are defenses one can use, but there was only one on the train. The more there are, the more difficult it becomes to resist.
What defenses? Can you teach me?
I don't pretend to be an expert, Harry. Quite the contrary.
If Dementors show up in the next match, I need to be able to defend myself.
Well, alright, I'll try to help. But it must wait until next term, I'm afraid. I have a lot of work to do before the holidays. I chose a very inconvenient time to fall ill.
Harry nods eagerly and leaves quickly. A relieved smile grows on his face at the prospect of never having to hear the Dementors again. It's a chilly, snowy morning that heralds the next Hogsmeade weekend. Harry, unable to go, wanders the corridors with an issue of Which Broomstick, trying to decide on a new model. He's so engrossed in it, he nearly jumps out of his skin when he hears,
Psst! Harry!
Harry sees the twins poking their head out from behind the statue of a humpbacked witch, beckoning him over. He joins them.
What are you doing? Why aren't you in Hogsmeade?
We've come to give you a bit of a festive cheer before we go. Come in here.
They lead Harry to a nearby classroom. Checking that no one is inside, they quickly turn to him, grinning broadly. But Harry is still confused.
Early Christmas present for you, Harry.
Fred takes something out of his pocket and hands it to Harry. It's an old piece of parchment, yellowed and ancient with ragged edges. Harry doesn't get it.
What's this supposed to be?
This, Harry, is the secret to our success. It's Wench giving it to you, but we decided your needs are greater than ours.
What do I need an old piece of parchment for?
A bit of old parchment, he says. Explain, George. Well, when we were in our first year, Harry, young, carefree, innocent,
Harry rolls his eyes at this.
we got into a spot of Brother Filch. We left a dung bomb on his desk, so he hauled us off, threatening the usual. Detention, disembowelment, and we couldn't help noticing a drawer in a corner labeled confiscated, and highly dangerous.
Don't tell me.
Well, what would you have done? George caused diversion, and I whipped the drawer open and grabbed this.
He waves the piece of parchment proudly.
We don't think Filch ever figured out how to work it, though I bet he suspected.
And you know how to work it?
George takes his wand out and points it to the parchment.
I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good.
Harry watches the parchment as slowly black ink starts spreading from one corner of it to the other, filling in corridors and rooms. Tiny words appear on the map, labeling everything. Then, green lurid letters proclaim,
Mrs. Mooney, Wormtail, Padfoot and Prongs, purveyors of aids to magical mischief makers, are proud to present the Marauder's map.
It is a map of Hogwarts, showing every room, hallway, staircase and cupboard. Inky figures show where all the castle's occupants are. Dumbledore is pacing in his office, Peeves is bouncing around in the trophy room, and Moaning Myrtle is in the girls' bathroom. Harry's eyes scan the map in amazement, and then he seems to notice something, and he points to a corridor that leads away from the castle.
Is that
a passage to Hogsmeade? Right you are. There's 7 in all. Filch knows about 4 of them, and 1 got blocked off this last year. But this one leads right into Honeyduke's cellar. If you notice, the entrance is right outside his room, through that humpbacked witch's hump.
This is amazing, guys. Thanks.
Oh, don't forget to say mischief managed when you're not using it, or anyone will be able to see it. See you in Hogsmeade.
With that, the twins slip out of the room, leaving Harry alone. After a few moments of hesitation, he follows the twins' footsteps and heads over to the witch's statue. He looks at the map and finds himself on it. He sees his figure speaking something.
Descendium.
The hump opens, revealing a small passage leading to a corridor. Harry looks around to see if he's alone before he enters. The darkness quickly swallows him, and he lights his wand. He follows the corridor for a long way, but eventually he comes to the end. He hears a lot of commotion above him, confirming that he is somewhere in Hogsmeade. Waiting until the voices seem further away, Harry climbs a small ladder and opens a trapdoor. The room he finds himself in is full of boxes of sweets and other various items sold by the sweet shop Honeydukes. Before he is spotted, Harry slips down a corridor and up some steps, blending in with the crowd. Looking around the shop, Harry is amazed at all the things. After a while, he spots Ron and Hermione perusing some sweets.
No, Harry won't want one of those. They're for vampires, I expect.
How about these box of cockroach clusters?
Definitely not.
They both look around in shock as they spot Harry, Ron nearly dropping the box he's holding.
Harry! How? Where?
Wait, kid. You've learned how to apparate, didn't you?
Of course I haven't. Fred and George gave me this map. It shows all the corridors and passages of Hogwarts. There's some secret passageways. One of them leads right to the cellar here.
Those kids. How come they never showed me this? I'm their brother.
But Harry isn't going to keep it. He's going to hand it in to McGonagall as soon as we get back. Right, Harry?
Of course I'm not. If I hand it in, I have to tell her where I got it. Then it'll get Fred and George in trouble.
But what about Sirius Black? He could be using those secret passages to get into Hogwarts. The teachers have to know.
He can't do. There's 7 of them, but Filch knows about 4 of them. 1 got blocked off, 1's over the Whomping Willow, he'd be mad to use that one, and the one I took is really difficult to spot.
Despite his nonchalance, he looks slightly worried.
Look, no one's going to spot Harry in these crowds. Besides, it's Christmas. Harry deserves a break.
You going to report me?
Oh, of course not, but really, Harry.
With Hermione pacified, Ron pulls Harry away to see everything in the shop. This quickly leads them out of Honeydukes and into the rest of Hogsmeade. The post office, Scriven Shafts, Zunkos, and more. After the tour, they head for the 3 Broomsticks, a pub where many warm up with a hot drink. Harry, Ron, and Hermione are led to a table, and Ron heads to the front to place their orders. He comes back carrying 3 tankards full of a hot butterscotch-colored liquid, butterbeer. Harry tastes some and grins, but then nearly chokes as he sees the front door open, admitting Professors McGonagall and Flitwick, followed by Hagrid and Cornelius Fudge. Hermione forces Harry under the table.
Mobiliabus.
A nearby tree moves in front of their table, concealing them from view. Harry watches the adult's feet approach the bar, and another pair of feet, clad in sparkly boots, leads them to a table nearby. As everyone sits, the woman, the barmaid Madame Rosemerta, starts to take their orders.
Who gets what today, folks? I got gilly water.
Mine.
4 pints of mule mad.
Yeah, Rosemerta. Thank you.
A cherry syrup and soda with ice and umbrella.
Here, thanks.
So, you'll be the red currant rum, Minister.
Thank you, Rosemerta. Lovely to see you again, by the way. Have something yourself, won't you? Join us.
Thank you very much, Minister.
The sparkly boots retreat, and Madame Rosemerta returns a few minutes later with a drink of her own, and she sits down with the teachers and Fudge.
So, what brings you into this neck of the woods, Minister?
What else but Sirius Black? I dare say you heard what happened at the school on Halloween.
I heard a rumor, yes.
Do you have to tell the whole pub, Hagrid?
Do you think he's still in the area, Minister?
I'm sure of it.
Those Dementors searched my pub twice. Very bad for business, you know.
My dear Rosemerta, I don't like them any more than you do. Necessary precaution, unfortunately. I've just met them. They're in a rage against Dumbledore. He won't let them on the castle grounds.
I should think not. Harry's supposed to teach with the horse flying around.
Yeah.
All the same, they are here to protect you all from something much worse. We all know what Black's capable of.
You know, I still have trouble believing that. Of all the people to go to the dark side, Sirius Black was the last person I have fought. I mean, I remember him from Hogwarts. If you told me then what he was going to become, I have said you had too much med.
You don't know half of it. The worst of his crimes isn't widely known.
Worse than murdering all those people.
I do, yes.
I can't believe that. What could be worse?
You say you remember him from Hogwarts, do you? Remember who his best friends were?
Of course I do. Never saw one without the other, did you? Quite the double act, Sirius Black and James Potter.
At this, Harry drops his mug, and Ron gives him a right kick to the head. Thankfully, everyone is too engrossed in their conversation to notice.
Precisely. Black and Potter, ringleaders of their little gang. Both are very bright, of course, but I don't think anyone has expressed them in their terms of trouble cause.
I don't know. Those Weasley twins could give them a run for their money.
You would have thought Black and Potter were brothers, inseparable they were.
Of course they were. Potter trusted Black over all his other friends, and that didn't change once they left Hogwarts. Black was best man when James and Lily were married. Then they named him Harry's godfather. The boy has no idea, of course. You can imagine that it would torment him.
Because Black turned out to be allegiance with you-know-who.
Worse, even than that. Not many people are aware that the Potters knew you-know-who was after them. What if Dumbledore's spies told them, and he advised them to go into hiding, and that their best chance was the Fidelius charm?
How does that work exactly?
In many contexts, though, involving the magical concealment of a secret inside a single living soul, the information is hidden inside a person or secret keeper and is henceforth impossible to find, unless the secret keeper chooses to divulge it. As long as they refuse to speak, you know who will not find them, even if he had his nose pressed against their sitting room window.
So Black was their secret keeper?
Naturally, James told Dumbledore that Black would rather die than betray them. That he is planning to go into hiding himself. Yet Dumbledore worried. He even offered to be their secret keeper himself.
He suspected Black.
He was sure someone close to the Potters would keep you-know-who informed. He expected someone had turned traitor.
But James Potter insisted on using black.
Indeed he did, and barely a week after the Fidelis had been performed.
Black betrayed them.
He did. Black was tired of being the double agent. He seems to have planned his reveal for the Potter's death, but of course, you know who lost his power that night. He fled, and that left Black in a very nasty situation. Just at the moment Black had revealed his true colors, his master was gone. He fled.
Filthy, stinking turncoat. Shh. I met him, and must have been the last to see him before he killed them all. It was me that rescued Harry from Lily and James's house after he was killed. Just got him out the ruins, poor little thing. Sirius Black turns up on that flying motorbike he used to ride. Never occurred to me what he was doing there. I didn't know he had been Lily and James's secret keeper. Thought he had just heard the news of you-know-who's attack and come to see what he could do. White and shaken I was. He had to know what I did. I comforted the damn traitor.
Hagrid, keep your voice down.
But he couldn't get away. The ministry caught up with him the next day.
Alas, if we had. It was little Peter Pettigrew who got to him. He must have figured out the truth and tried to stop Black himself.
That little lump of a boy who always tagged along after him.
Hero worship, Black and Potter. I was often sharp with him. He was never up to his talent. You can imagine that I regret that now.
There, now, Minerva. He died a hero's death. Eyewitnesses told us how Pettigrew cornered him, sobbing, asking how he could have done it. Then wands were drawn, and of course Black was faster, blew up half the street.
Foolish boy. He's always hopeless at dueling. He should have left it to the ministry.
I'll tell you, if I'd got to Black first.
No one but trained wizards would stand a chance. When they arrived at the scene, they found the remains of Pettigrew and the muggles who had been nearby. All that was left of Pettigrew was a few fragments. Black was led away to Azkaban, and Pettigrew received the posthumous Order of Merlin, first class. I hope it was some comfort to his mother.
Is it true that Black is mad after so long in Azkaban?
I wish I could say he were. The murder of Pettigrew and all those muggles was the action of a cornered and desperate man. Cruel, pointless. Yet I met Black on my last inspection of Azkaban. You know, most of the prisoners in there sit muttering to themselves in the dark. There's no sense in them. I was shocked at how normal Black seemed. He spoke quite rationally to me. It was unnerving. You'd have thought he was merely bored. Asked if I'd finished with my newspaper. Call as you please. Said he missed doing the crossword. Yes, I was astounded how little effect the Dementors seemed to be having on him, and he was one of the most heavily guarded in the place. You know, Dementors outside his door day and night.
But he broke out to do what? Certainly he's not going to rejoin you-know-who.
I dare say that this is his ultimate plan. I shudder to think of you-know-who giving back his most loyal servant.
There is a clinking of glass, and one of them stands.
Minister, if you're dining with the headmaster, we really should head to the castle.
One by one, they all get up and head for the exit, except for Rosemarta, who goes back to work. Once everyone has left, Ron and Hermione poke their heads under the table to see Harry, ashen-faced and pale, none of them able to say a word.
And with that reveal, it is time for this episode to end, sadly. I will see you all in the next episode in a few short months or weeks, depending on how quickly we get the next one out. I thank you all for being with us and taking the time to support us. Thank you very much.
Snape turns in their book to a chapter near the back, which they could cover.
I thought you'd be like this. Those were completely different conditions. Fuck.
At this, Harry drops his mug, and Ron gives him a kick right in the head.
Worse than even that. Not many people are aware that the Potters knew you-know-who was after them. One of Dumbledore's spies told him, and he advised them to go into hiding, and that their best chance for the